Good evening. I am sorry I'm so sweaty. I've once again turned off the ceiling fan for your audio benefit because I want to ask you a question. I'm genuinely interested in anybody's opinion, so feel free to comment because I'm looking for diverse opinions on something where I'm not really sure what to think. Don't worry, it's nothing very heavy, but a couple of things have been going through my mind recently. One is Nepo babies and the kind of discussion around them, and I'll come back to why. I really am dripping, I'm sorry. And the second is content creation and kids. And I'm not talking about any of the scandals that have involved some YouTubers lately, some unpleasant stuff. No, I'm talking about something a bit more wholesome, which is kind of when to introduce kids to educational videos online, YouTube, both as a consumer, but potentially also as a creator. So the thought process goes like this. I've always had a pretty hardline, not always, but a pretty hardline view about my kids being on the internet. You know, I don't have pictures or videos of them anywhere on any of my social media profiles, except a couple of videos years ago. One of them appeared as a baby, but I had a much smaller channel then, and since then, my views have hardened a bit. I'm not judging people who do differently. Well, I'm judging some of them, but if I'm sure there are ways to feature your kids in a responsible way, I'm sure, but I don't think I'm alone in feeling that the safest thing is just to avoid it entirely. However, I'm now starting to wonder if I'm potentially doing them a disservice. So the next part of the thought process went along these lines. Then I am watching a bit of YouTube with my kids now, and there's so much wonderful content directed at a younger audience. We've really enjoyed videos by Maddie Moat and Sabrina Cruz, both of whom I'm friendly with for the work they've done, sort of directed at a more adult audience. Sabrina's got a brilliant channel that I'm sure a lot of you know, Answer in Progress, that she shares. Just one of the best creators on YouTube. But I didn't realize that she did a whole crash course for kids. Science, and my kids loved it, and I could just see how their faces lit up. It was really, Sabrina's a fantastic presenter, but the whole crash course team as well made this very engaging content. My son is dead keen for the last few years on being an engineer. I'm just pleased he didn't say doctor. So there's engineering stuff there, brilliant. And I could see that effect that she had. And, previously I'd known her as someone who makes videos for grown-ups, let's say. But I thought, wow, that's a really amazing extra string to your bow to inspire young kids like that. And they all know her now. And, I'm getting reflected glory. I'm like, did you know your dad knows her? And they're like, yeah, sure, Dad. Slightly older kids, things like Crash Course and SciShow, a lot of my colleagues who are adults now in full-time science communication or science, they talk about SciShow and Crash Course in the same way, like it really inspired them. I'm far too old to have had any of these resources when I was a teenager, but they, it's got a lifelong impact on them. They talk about it in the way that, a lot of us talk about media that we consume when we're young and very impressionable. And I thought, that's so amazing to have that legacy. I mean, someone like Hank Green, who, there isn't anyone you can compare really to Hank Green. He's got this vast legacy and body of work. But I think for me, his greatest legacy is this inspiration of now several generations of people through stuff like SciShow and Crash Course and, his brother as well. So I don't know if it's envy, but I felt like, wow, I was really impressed by that. I thought maybe that's something that I would like to do. And my sons are really interested in science, as you might imagine, with me as their dad, and I have these great chats with them, and I thought it would be quite an easy video to make, to just me explaining to my sons some scientific concept, and that could be like a channel idea in itself. But obviously that completely contradicts my rule of not putting them on the internet. So I kind of don't know what to think. Now, at the moment, they are still too young for this to become a question. And I think, a lot of the channels which feature young kids, I feel uncomfortable about, and I think there is a lot of kind of exploitation. But in the educational space, I think it's much less common. And I just wonder if that is something that I'd like to do. And then coming back to the Nepo baby thing, you know, Nepo babies get a bad rep and everything, but, you know, Nepo baby parents, they don't agree with the popular perception. They're going to take every opportunity they can to try and further their kid's career. And why shouldn't I? You know, I've got two kind of main professions. One is being a doctor, and I absolutely do not want to encourage them to do that. But the other is educational content creation, videos and YouTube and Nebula. And why shouldn't I take advantage of my connections and my, you know, clout, small scale YouTube channel, but I've got some, let's say, well-connected friends. You know, maybe I do want to give them a leg up. Maybe that would actually be doing them a favor, because I do think something like YouTube looks quite robust for the future. I think some social media platforms are a bit shaky. I've got faith that YouTube is going to last. And if my kids told me that they were thinking of doing kind of online video in an educational capacity, I don't think it's got that same toxicity as being a kind of influencer on YouTube. I wouldn't have any qualms about them doing that. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough, but let me know what your thoughts are. Is there an age at which we, you know, is there like a cutoff, like 14 years old, 12 years old, 16 years old, where you think below that they shouldn't be sort of making videos of putting themselves on the internet? Or do you think once they're, you know, old enough to understand, maybe you think it's even younger, that they can make some videos? I have got one idea I'm going to start with, which is we're going to make some videos together, like explainer science videos, but just not post them online. We'll just share them with relatives and stuff. And that will maybe teach them the ropes and get to know kind of editing software and stuff like that. But, you know, I do feel like this is a skill set that I have. Why shouldn't I pass it on to my kids? But is there a good way to do that without opening them up to, you know, all the unpleasantness that can exist on the internet? Or can it just be possible that I'm supervising them closely? And I don't know. Anyway, this is just nebulous thoughts. I met Pranav, whose channel Science is Dope, is a great YouTube channel about science based here in India, last night, and we were chatting about this, so I thought I'd just make a quick video with some thoughts. Isn't that quick at all, but that's what happens. Maybe the thing I need to teach myself before I teach my kids is the art of brevity.